Hey everybody, Mr. Nolan back. Welcome back. Today we are going to do fractions and decimals to percents, and this is a reteach. So let's go ahead and get started. If we look at number 1, it says Celia surveyed the students in her 6th grade math class to see what flavor of frozen custard they like best. The table shows the results of their survey. Find the table, or fill in the table, to write the equivalent fraction, decimal, percent of each flavor that the students liked best. So first of all, I need to know how many total students were surveyed. So 12 plus 8 is 20. 20 plus 5 is 25. So I'm going to put right here my total is 25. So now as a fraction, what fraction liked vanilla? Well, 12 students liked vanilla, and there was 25 students surveyed. Now it says to convert the fraction to a decimal. Well guys, if we remember how to convert a fraction to a decimal, you can do top in, bottom out. Top in, bottom out, and you just straight up divide. But I'm going to show you all another way instead of doing tie-bow. I can also get my denominator equal to 100. So how many quarters would it take for me to get to $1? Well, that's right, it's 4. So you multiply by 4. So 12 times 4 would give you 48. So as a decimal, you would get 0.48. Now, how would you turn a decimal into a percent? Well, this is nice and easy. Percents are always out of 100. If you notice, here's my 1 with 2 zeros, represents 100%. So to turn a decimal into a percent, you take your decimal and you move it 2 places to the right. So that would just be 48%. Nice and easy. Let's look at the second one. Now, how many students like chocolate? Well, if you look at chocolate, there are 8 students that like chocolate out of 25 total surveyed. Again, I'm going to get my fraction to be put over 100. So again, how many quarters does it take to give you $1? Let's multiply by 4. So 8 times 4 would give you 32 over 100. As a decimal, that is 0.32. And again, to turn the decimal into a percent, you just move the decimal 2 places to the right. So that would be 32%. And now let's look at this last one, strawberry. Well, it looks like there was 5 students that like strawberry out of 25 total students. Again, I want to get this put over 100. Again, 4 quarters will give you $1. So 5 times 4 would give you 20. So as a decimal, you could put 0.2 or 0.20. It's the same thing. I'm just going to put 0.20. To turn the decimal into a percent, move it 2 places to the right. So that would be 20%. Now I want to make sure this is right. If you add up your percents, it should give you 100%. 8 plus 2 is 10. Carry your 1. 4 plus 3 is 7. 7 plus 2 is 9. And then 9 plus the 1 that we carried over is 10. So that is 100%. So all of these are good to go. Alright, let's look at number 2. The table shows the number of each type of car that came through a car wash on a Saturday. What percent of the cars were sedans? So we're going to have sedans over total vehicles. Well, if I look at the sedans, there's 80 of them. How many total vehicles? Well, 80 plus 60 is 140. 140 plus 10 is 150. 150 plus 50 is 200. Okay. Now it's asking for a percent. So what I'm going to do first is I want to simplify this. I'm going to divide them both by 10. 80 divided by 10 is 8. 200 divided by 10 is 20. Well, look at this. I can get a nice denominator now over 100. So how many $20 bills does it take to give you $100? Well, 20 times 5 would give you 100. Now, the reason I did it over 100 is because percents are always out of 100%. That's why I changed my denominator to 100. Some of y'all are going to say, well, Mr. Nolan, couldn't you have just divided by 2 and get 40 over 100? Yes, you could have. It's the same exact thing. So your percent, 40 over 100 is equivalent to 40%. So 40% of the vehicles were sedans. Again, I probably did a little extra work here, but again, there's always more than one way to solve a math problem. Okay, if you look at number 3, John has 2 volunteer jobs, one as an assistant at a nursing home and another as a math tutor. John spends 7/20 of his volunteer time at the nursing home. What percent is equivalent to the fraction of volunteer time John spends tutoring? So here we go. This is nursing home. So NH is for nursing home. And it appears he spends 7 out of 20. So if he spends 7 out of 20 at the nursing home, how much time does he spend being a math tutor? Well, 20 minus 7 gives us 13. So 13 out of the 20 hours he spends would be as a math tutor. But it says what percent, so I have to turn this into a percent. Once again, percents are always out of 100. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my denominator into 100. Just like on problem number 2. To get from 20 to 100, what did you multiply by? Good, multiply by 5. So 13 times 5 will give you 65. So as a percent, 65 over 100 is equivalent to 65%. And there's your answer. Alright, number 4. In Miss O'Brien's class, 0.6 of the students missed the same question. Express this as a fraction in simplest form and as a percent. Well, to turn a decimal into a fraction, you take the number given, which is the 6, and you put it over the place value. So the 6 is in what place value? Well, good, it's in the tenths. So I turned the decimal into a fraction, but I'm not done because it wants the fraction in simplest form. If you notice, they're both even numbers, so that means they're both divisible by 2. So 6 divided by 2 is 3. 10 divided by 2 is 5. Okay, so there's your fraction in simplest form. Now I'm going to turn the decimal into a percent. Well, 0.6 is the same as 0.60. Now, if you want to turn a decimal into a percent, all you do is you take your decimal and move it 2 places to the right. It's the same thing as multiplying by 100. So, 0.6, move the decimal 2 places to the right. That's equivalent to 60%. So now we got our fraction in simplest form, and we got our percent. So nice and easy there. Let's go and flip to the back of this page. Harrison had 10 days of vacation. He spent 1/5 of his vacation fishing. He spent 30% of his vacation at soccer camp, and he spent the rest of the time at the beach. What percent of his vacation did Harrison spend at the beach? So it's asking for a percent. Well, what I need to do is I need to turn this 1/5 into a percent. So, again, percents are always out of 100. Well, how many $5 bills would it take to give you $100? Well, it would give you 20 of them. So 1 times 20 would give you 20. So 20 over 100 as a percent is 20%. So he spent 1/5, which is 20% fishing. He spent 30% at summer camp. Well, how much percent is left? Again, percents are out of 100. So 100 minus 30 is 70. I subtracted the camp, and now I take that 70% and subtract the fishing from it. And so what percent of the vacation did Harrison spend at the beach? 50%. I'll be honest, the beach actually sounds pretty nice right now. It sounds nice and relaxing. Alright, Mark was spinning a spinner and landed on red 4 out of 5 times. Express this fraction as a percent. Well, here's 4 out of 5. And I want to turn it into a percent. So there's 2 ways we can do it. We can get my denominator over 100. Or I can do Tybo and get a decimal and then move the decimal over. I will show you both ways. Well, to get from 5 to 100, you multiply by 20. So if you have 4 $20 bills, you have $80. Again, 80 over 100 is the same as 80%. Now, if you don't like getting a common denominator of 1, then just do Tybo. Top in, bottom out. Can 5 go into 4? No, it cannot. But 5 can go into 40 8 times. Now, how do you turn a decimal into a percent? Well, 0.8 is the same as 0.80. To turn a decimal into a percent, you move your decimal 2 places to the right, or you just multiply by 100. So this would be 80%. And there was more than one way to solve this problem. That's why I showed you 2 different ways here. Number 8. When making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, 96/100ths of the people put the peanut butter on first. What percent of the people put the jelly on first? Well, again, percents are out of 100, so if 96% of the people put the peanut butter on first, 100 minus 96 would give you 4. Now it wants it as a percent, so that would just be 4%. How did I know to do 100? Well, guys, this is 96/100ths that put on the peanut butter. So that means, so this is peanut butter. Now this would be the jelly. So that means 4 people out of 100 put on the jelly first. That's all I did. Nice and easy. 2 more. Number 7 says, a survey showed that 39 out of 50 of youth most often use the internet at home. What fraction of you surveyed most often use the internet somewhere else? Ooh, this is a nice little problem. So if 30, so this is the internet, home. So internet at home, I'm just abbreviating. So 39 out of 50. So this is internet somewhere else. Well, 50 minus 39 means 11 out of the 50 people use the internet somewhere else. So what fraction? Well, there's your fraction. 11 over 50 can't be simplified. Now what if it asks to turn that into a percent? If it asks to turn that into a percent, on this one I would get a denominator of 100. So how many $50 bills to give you $100? Times 2. 11 times 2 would be 22 out of 100, which is 22%. Now here's a question for you. How would you turn a percent into a decimal? I haven't talked to you about that one yet. Well, we know to go from a decimal to a percent, you move the decimal 2 places to the right, or multiply by 100. To turn a percent into a decimal, notice we have a whole number here, 22%. You put the decimal on the back, and you would move it 2 places to the left. Or you take the 22 and you divide it by 100. So that's how you would turn a percent into a decimal. Okay. Last one. In a recent year, 3 out of 25 of Americans downloaded a podcast from the internet. What is the decimal and percent equivalent? Well, I'm going to go ahead and do top in, bottom out for this one. So top in, bottom out. Can 25 go into 3? No, it cannot. How many times can 25 go into 30? Well, go ahead and go in there one time. Can 25 go into 5? No, it cannot. But since I have a remainder, you have to put the 0 behind it. Now, how many quarters does it take to give you 50 cents? 2 of them. So your equivalent decimal is 0.12. So I'm going to do this. 3 over 25 is equal to 0.12 as a decimal. Now as a percent, take your decimal, move it 2 places to the right, so that is just 12%. Now guys, we're going to have a test coming up. It looks like on the 13th and 14th of December here. It's going to be over fractions, decimals, and percents, converting a fraction to a decimal to a percent, a fraction to a percent, and so forth. This is not a hard test. It's the same as Unit 1 with converting fractions and decimals. The only thing we're adding on here is now we're adding percents. Alright guys, I hope this video helps. You'll have a great day. Bye.